Hi, how are you? This is Dr. Damaris Maria Grossman, Integrative Family Nurse Practitioner, and thank you for joining in on the Mindfully Integrative podcast and YouTube channel. So today we have a really awesome guest called for our mindful chat, Dr. Katherine Pace. Now, she is not only a physical therapist, but she's a pelvic floor expert and helps a lot of women postpartum. I came upon her through Instagram and
Mhm.
also being that I'm a kind of a 1 year, 10 months my baby is, and I'm postpartum. And I remember just following her just 'cause I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So she'll tell you a little bit more about herself, but I look forward to having a chat with her and you guys learning more about this amazing woman. So, Dr.
Thank you.
Pace, thanks for, joining in.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that awesome intro.
Oh, no problem. I don't think it's that hard to, when you've got a lot to offer for your clients and for
Yes.
different individuals. So I just love, how are you doing overall for the day? Doing well?
I'm doing great. Just staying really busy. So, but that it's been really good. I opened up Haven last month, so the beginning of March. And so I find that there is just a lack of information and help for the postpartum or even pregnant mom, or even moms that have been postpartum for many months or many years. And I think it's just something that society in general is missing. And because Instagram has made the world a lot smaller, you can now give a lot of information to a lot of people. And so I think people are more open and more receptive to what pelvic floor health and pelvic health is.
No, I think that's amazing because I mean, I knew in like yoga when I was in yoga teaching trainings and stuff like that, and I had a general idea, but
Yeah.
until I actually became pregnant, I
Yeah.
was like, holy moly,
Right.
everything was working, and now
Right.
it is not working like it was. And then I started to look for something in need, and then I did come across your Instagram, but I just felt like you're not only a pelvic floor expert, you're a doctor in physical therapy. So you're an expertise in physical therapy, but you've transitioned and made a whole business in this area. So this must be something it's obviously you're very passionate about. Like me
Oh,
with integrative
so
health as a whole, like you're very passionate about and trying to make a difference and informing people, right?
so yeah, I've been a physical therapist for 14 years. Somebody just asked me, and I always forget how long, but I've been in pelvic health since 2016. I got certified in 2017 with my pelvic health certification, but I am so just passionate about it because people who have problems with pelvic floor are usually told that it's all in their head, or that it's just, it's something normal, it's something, what every woman goes through after they have a baby, or they get told all these ridiculous lies, and it kind of isolates the patient. And then it's a little bit embarrassing sometimes to even tell your doctor that you're having an issue, and then for them to just kind of say, well, it's normal, or there's nothing I can do.
Right.
Then kind of isolates the
Oh, it's
mom.
totally isolating. I mean, I know as a provider, right? I know people be like, "Oh, I'm pregnant," and I for myself, I was pregnant. Yeah, I was pee like I had to pee all the time, or I had to have a
Mhm.
pad because I was leaking. I mean, it's something I didn't want to talk about, or somebody,
Right.
or people come to me. I'm like, you need to go get pelvic. I knew they needed to go see a pelvic expert person because at least I had some idea, but
Yeah.
I couldn't even give them enough info. I mean, I gave them a little bit of information, but I knew that there was something deficient, but there's not enough people like thank God, see that you have a niche that people need,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
don't talk about it. And the OB doesn't talk about it. What's up with
No,
that? My
I
OB
don't.
didn't say anything. I'm like, no, and I'm not a heavy person. I mean, I gained weight from the pregnancy because I had preeclamps, but you probably have these women, even skinny, that are still dealing with
Oh,
all
oh
of this.
yeah, absolutely. I even remember when I was pregnant with my second. I have three. When I was pregnant with my second child, I remember I was just having a lot of pain. And I
Mhm.
told my OB, who was no longer my OB, but I said, "Hey, I'm having a lot of pain here." And he basically said, "Well, you're in your third trimester. What do you expect?" And I said, wow, that is unacceptable. That is just
Right?
unacceptable. Like, it just blows my mind. And it really, I think it just tells women that if you're pregnant or you're postpartum, pain and suffering come hand in
Come
hand.
together. Like that's what you should have to deal with, and that's it.
It's not true. It's not true at all.
That no, I mean, you have such a great point about it because I feel like we between that one, that's my favorite. And then the other one is, oh, your hormones are never, they're just, perimenopause, menopause, or
Yeah.
your pregnancy hormones
Yeah.
and post pregnancy. That's all normal. There's nothing
Yeah.
we can do about it.
Right.
Those are my like, you're like, what? Here you're trying to tell people like, no, there's things that they can do.
Yeah.
So you obviously came and you started this business, this practice, which sounds amazing, and you're booked already. Like you're pretty busy, right? Quite off, like that's great.
Thank
And
goodness.
then, and how can and then you also have an online practice, like online.
Well, I do like coaching online
Mhm.
if like usually I do that for patients that can't get in the
Right.
office physically, whether they're too far away or whatever. We'll talk about maybe we can just coach you virtually. Sometimes that works out. I always
Mhm.
feel like an in person session is the gold standard, but sometimes you just can't. And so it's
Yeah.
better to talk through your symptoms and have someone kind of guide you through what you should be doing instead of you just kind of waiting for, pelvic floor therapists to, start a practice in your area.
Yeah, no, that I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I wish that, your the information, like, do you have when it comes to this, right? Have you had women that like start crying to you because they finally are like feel like they've, you've helped change their perspective and then they don't feel like, because you're taking an approach that not everybody is like, oh, what is this? Or oh, it's
Right.
you're changing it. And what made you come to this? Was there a struggle? Was it your kid, like you being a mom, or
Yeah.
like you were saying, was it that, or what changed it, like for you as a physical therapist, that you're like, I've got to do something else. I've got to do this.
Right. So I was in orthopedic physical therapy. Like I did, your total knees, your total hips. I did that for a long time. I was never super passionate about it, so I knew that it couldn't sustain me for my whole career because you need to
Right.
be fulfilled
Yeah.
in your career. My son, my oldest son, he's 11 now, but when he was born, we didn't know it at the time, but he was actually born with a really rare colon issue.
Hmm.
And because it was so mild, his symptoms didn't come on until later in life. So several, he was like 3 months old. He started having constipation. And I went to,
Oh,
no joke, at least six different pediatricians who said, "Wait, he's a baby. He's
yeah.
constipated. He's fine."
Right.
And I'm
Right. Right.
like, he's not gaining weight. He, hasn't gone in 9 days. Like, this is not normal.
And you knew that there was something that was
Yeah.
off, and you knew there was changes. Okay. Wow. So
So, and then you keep getting told by different medical professionals, and then you're like questioning yourself, like, am I overreacting? I would go to the ER and they would kind of tell me the same thing. So sometimes you have to really keep digging and looking for a professional who will take you seriously. I mean, obviously it was serious. He needed to have 3 surgeries to fix
3. Oh
his
my.
problem. If they had told me in the beginning, like if I found the right person in the beginning, he would only have needed one, but he ended up needing three because he was 18 months before
And
anyone
he had,
over
okay,
him. Yeah.
wow. Um,
So then, like, I just have a really special place in my heart for people who are kind of struggling, and everybody is just like, or you're a little bit crazy, or they don't take them seriously. And I feel as women sometimes we're just not taken seriously postpartum, or during pregnancy. So I just really have a special place in my heart for patients that have been told that time and time
I
again.
I feel like you're kind of you're filling that void for women when we don't always think, like we're trying to be strong because we're like everyone's like, oh, you're a mom, you're pregnant,
Yeah.
and you almost have to be strong, but yet you're just saying, hey, I am struggling. And then even the post traumatic, like the postpartum blues after, it's like if we're not, like, you're helping us move, so even that alone probably helps with like the hormonal changes too. I can imagine. I mean, I'm not sure, but I mean, have you noticed women changing with their mood because they're feeling better?
Yeah, sure. I mean, of course. I mean, they should always go and like
Get treated if
get
needed, right? Right.
treated.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course,
But
go for a mental health provider as needed. But have you found that like because you're helping them with these physical ailments,
yeah.
do you notice like that it, it's obviously it can help with, do you build like a community of women, like not just like with your practice, but have you like, is there something that like a little tip that you can kind of share with the listeners that like I know you have an Instagram channel, and what's your handle on Instagram?
Pelvic Haven.
Oh, it's Pelvic
So
Haven.
it's
Okay.
the
So,
opposite of my website. So I always get them mixed up. My website is havenpelvic.com and my Instagram is Pelvic Haven.
well, you could always change that. You could, or
I should, because it's confusing to me. So
yeah, you could always readjust that like it's at any time,
yeah,
so it's really up to
yeah,
you. But Haven, I
yeah,
love that. But so do you have a
yeah.
little tip for the listeners that like, that may be struggling with this? And then of course they'll probably reach out to you, but something that, even not even postpartum, just pelvic
Right.
floor health in general, right? You don't have to be a postpartum woman to have pelvic floor health, right? Needs.
Absolutely not. I have patients in their, in their college years, and they're struggling with some issues. I think the biggest takeaway I would love for women and men, if they are listening to this, is just let's start talking about it and normalizing it instead of kind of keeping it hush hush. I mean, it's not the most comfortable thing to talk about, but once you open up, I'm sure one of your friends or your sister or your mother, they have an issue. They just don't want to necessarily tell you. But if we start talking about it or posting about it, then it becomes like okay. It becomes okay to talk about it. It
An
becomes okay.
awareness. So it's like pelvic, it's an awareness of what's going on. Because your area, if the listeners don't know, it's just pelvic floor area. I mean, I would love for you to describe it, but people are talking about, their genital area, or
Right,
bathroom
right.
issues, right? Those
Yeah.
aren't really private. But if you want to describe pelvic floor health to someone that may not know, I would love, it's up to you. But if you have a few moments.
Sure. So I treat any conditions that are related to pregnancy, postpartum, if you have issues with going to the bathroom, constipation, or with your sexual life.
Mhm.
It's all very much related. And I also throw in there if you have chronic back or chronic hip pain that hasn't been fully resolved and you've tried all of the things already, there could very well be a pelvic floor component, which is like your missing puzzle piece.
How interesting is that? I mean, I bet you there's a bunch of people that have issues with that.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
they try, they've probably been in therapy 3 or 4 times. They've tried the chiro, they did the shots, but no one has looked at the pelvic floor. And your pelvic floor is a bunch of muscles that are connected to everything else in your body. And sometimes you just need to take a look at it.
And kind of like dive deep into, and like you said, it having that like that conversation. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I are medical professionals, so we're maybe more open to those conversations. But the
Right.
average person isn't. Like I'm saying, like for my mom, I'd be like, oh, she told me something about like having bathroom issues like once, and she's like, oh, I don't like to talk about it. And I'm like, if we don't talk about it, you
Mhm.
can't do the exercises. Just talking about like Kegel
Yeah.
exercises, right? Like
Right.
just a
Right.
basic Kegel, when I try
Yeah.
to just give someone that info, it's
Yeah.
like a whole thing. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm just talking basic, and a Kegel exercise for anyone on is trying to get your vaginal area, that or you can even explain it better than me. So I say Kegel exercise. How would you
Yeah.
explain that?
So
I just tell someone that, and that's a big thing. It's like, oh no,
a
I don't want to talk about
Kegel
it.
is actually a pelvic floor contraction. So it's a contraction of your pelvic floor muscles. You should feel your vaginal area and your rectal area tightening. And that is basically what it is. It's like if you flex your bicep, it's kind of like flexing your pelvic floor muscle.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I think you bring up a really good point, and I think that's why social media has been so good with this, because you don't even need to like talk to anyone. You could just literally, hashtag pelvic floor and see all these like all of these experts come on and tell you about it so that you don't feel so isolated. If people are posting about it, it must be a thing. You must
Right.
not be the only one who's dealing with it.
Hmm. I mean, and like why, and I like that, the more awareness, it's just like with
Yeah,
mental health, no stigma on something. And even though
absolutely.
it's not a conversation everybody wants to talk about, we need to have that discussion. And, and you and I had discussed at one time, we'll eventually maybe do a webinar on just even talking about, constipation and GI upsets and just,
Yeah,
there's a whole right between like the physical and the the neurological body, and then also these other elements. So it's like a whole picture, and i
yeah,
don't i don't think everybody knows, we just
yeah,
aren't aware. um
absolutely.
Now, like through, I know you started your business this year, but like you've been in working with patients for over 14 years. And have you found anyone in your career that's kind of been your mentor or inspired you to kind of get into this? Like, I mean, obviously as a mom you
Mm.
had, or was there any like additionally your struggle with your son? That was huge.
Yeah.
But do you have like something that inspired you like even more, or is it just being with patients?
I actually do. So I have a mentor. She's actually my mentor now. She's actually my business mentor now. But
Oh,
I was just like going through Instagram and I was like, I really, really like how she treats the pelvic floor. She takes this whole body approach. And so
mhm.
I just started following her and then I found a whole community, of
Oh,
pelvic
cool.
floor therapists. And it's, you know, there we're trying to really just spread the word. I mean, 10 years ago nobody would have known really what
But
pelvic
this
floor.
was right.
Yeah, so so anyway, she's like a big mentor for me. And I follow a lot of people that I aspire to be like in business or professionally. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I find a lot of them online and we connect, so that's great.
Yeah, I'm grateful for the internet for like those things. I'm connecting all these people. I mean, even with this passion project for this podcast, I was telling individuals that, after all these speakers down the road, in about a year, I want to do a conference on,
Oh,
bringing all
cool.
these integrative professionals together
Awesome.
and people that spoke, and, bringing it together like maybe a yearly like event or something. And I just like, I think about how many people are making a difference, and it's like you're doing something outside, not only just business wise, but you're doing something outside the regular healthcare model
Mhm.
because you know that something needs to be changed. And I
Right.
think that's so important for people to understand. It's things that are going right now in the traditional is not 100% working. It's not
Mhm.
negative. We're just saying we want something a little bit different, or we want something better. And I really appreciate that from you
Yeah.
as a provider and as a physical therapist.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
that's
patients
important.
should have options. Not every patient is going to want to come to Haven. I don't know why, but not every patient is going to want this kind of model. Um, but you need to have options out there.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think it's really good.
No, you're totally right. In reference to like how people can connect with you, and get resources with you, I'm gonna have the show notes, but is there anything additional that you'd want to add in today? And how, you can bring more mindfulness or extra information that they can reach you, or just another additive story that you might want to talk and reach.
I think you should all follow me on Instagram. I do
Of
a lot of
course.
I do a lot of like just stuff on there. Um, just again reiterating awareness, and just like awareness of little things that you may not have even thought is related to your pelvic floor, right? Like the whole like low back pain, like that can be a source, that can be an issue, or it can be a symptom pointing towards maybe there's pelvic floor dysfunction going on. So I encourage everybody to follow me and or go on my website at havenpelvic.com.
Oh, of
And
course.
so yeah, if you're like interested, there's definitely, you can just shoot me an email or a web inquiry form.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, I feel like in reference to, not just, well, you have like a huge like Instagram and TikTok and, those kind of ways for people to reach you. And I think, as I talk about in another podcast episode, is I talk about optimal wellness, and I talk about like there's 12 or 15-ish ways of wellness. And this pelvic floor, I would put in the category of
Mhm,
sexual health and
mhm,
women's health.
mhm.
And I think what it is, or men's health too, and
Right.
I think that we don't always identify that this is actually part of like this whole package. It's not just a pill or just one thing. And I think we have to be aware. It's that self-awareness, awareness of talking about it, awareness of our own bodies, and getting into the conversation. And so I really appreciate, you coming onto the show and kind of discussing, give us a little tidbits. And so and I would love for the listeners to follow you. And, I think what you're doing is really awesome. Is there any one in your family or friends or anyone that you want to shout out to, just to say, but I feel like you're pretty busy as it is, but
Well, yeah, my 3 kids and my husband, they keep
and
me
you're busy.
super busy.
Yeah, you keep you super
But
busy. So
I wanted to thank you so much, Damaris. I think that this is such a great, it's a great platform, and it's a great, it's just a great thing that you're doing, talking to different practitioners and kind of highlighting all these different things that maybe the general public just really doesn't know about. So I thank you.
oh, no problem. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think that there's information out there, but I think that I love the idea that there's just so many cool, different, integrative options that people
Yeah.
need to just kind of like, it's like the more so,
Yeah.
but I really appreciate you being on the show. And thanks so much, guys, for joining in on this Mindfully Integrative podcast with Dr. Katherine Pace and myself. And this mindful chat was awesome. And thank you each and every day. Make sure that you find a mindful way. Have a great day, guys. Namaste.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.